Hello, dear ones. Welcome. I know people are rolling in. It's nice and relatively early here in Pacific time. We have 9:02 a.m. and I see folks coming from a few friends from Texas, a few friends from Oregon. So good to have you here, loves. I'd love to hear in the chat. How's your heart this morning? How's your heart this morning? Or for some of you, it's not morning anymore. So how's your heart today? What's alive for you in your heart today? And I'll also mention that, of course, this is a class about beverages. You're all here to join me in a somewhat silly exploration of Zen and the art of making blissful beverages. Welcome. And so I'll also start out by saying, of course, please have some water at the very least that you can sip on during this class to keep yourself well hydrated, to hydrate those beautiful cells of yours. Heartful, feeling hopeful, grateful, thirsty. Nice. Well, I've got my very basic version of my morning tonic, which is in the recipe book that I'm going to drop in the chat in just a moment. And cheers, loves. This is the first thing I'll mention in this class, that this is the way that I start every morning, as my beloved will attest, who's over here tolerating me taking up the whole kitchen to offer this silly class. But I've been doing this for years, since I first started my health coaching business back in 2017 as a integrative nutrition health coach, which I no longer claim that title. I no longer necessarily am a health coach, but it's all about holistic wellness, right? Whatever I do is still under that category. And I've been doing this for a very long time, which is such a simple thing. But a lot of people, first of all, just balk at the size and the quantity of this. And usually by this time, I would have drank this whole thing. It's pretty usual, like very normal for me to drink a quart of water within the first, I don't know, 30 to 45 minutes of being awake. And I put a little bit of raw apple cider vinegar in it, just a capful. Bragg's is like the classic brand, but they sell it now at Costco, not Bragg's, but you can get it all over the place. Trader Joe's has their own brand, and just a little bit of that in some warm water. I don't really like it hot because I like to be able to drink it somewhat speedily. Like if it takes me long, like today, this is already cool. And so it's been very slow today, but my goal usually is to drink the whole thing while it's still warm. And first of all, that really jumpstarts my hydration for the day, because I don't know about you all, but I, even though I live in the Pacific Northwest, it must just be because I'm like a fog cloud baby, but I definitely tend to get really dehydrated. And when I get dehydrated, I get a headache, I get cranky, my skin starts to break out because it's too dry. So, first of all, I love this ritual because an hour into being awake, I've already had a quart of water, which I forget the actual math. There is an equation for, I mean, I'm sure, different scientists would say different things, but there's an equation for how much water you should have according to your body weight per day. What I find for me is that really like 3 quarts a day of water is is needed. And that's usually not including um, you know, tea or decaf or whatever else I'm having. That could include some like bubble water, but typically that's about how much I need. So I would love to hear from you all. Do you have a sense of how much water you need per day to stay hydrated? Like drop it in the chat. What's your intuition? What does your body say when it comes to how much water you require to stay nice and dewy, to feel resourced and enlivened in all your cells? Let us know in the chat. Inquiring minds want to know. Oh, okay, very good. Michelle says, no idea. I feel chronically dehydrated. Okay, Michelle, there's your homework. Yeah, time to find out how much water your body actually requires. And also, I'll mention that it may change throughout the seasons, right? Depending on where you hang out. I've been down to the jungles of Peru a couple times, and I can tell you that when I'm in a really humid jungle, I don't feel like I need as much water. I feel like it's coming in through osmosis through all my cells. Okay, Mavi, 3 big mason jars. Yep, probably drink about 64 ounces total water a day. Okay. Yeah, so what is a quart? I should know this, but 24, 36, 32. Ben's mouthing to me. 32. 32. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, 32. So that would mean this is hilarious. I should be able to do this. What's 32 times 3? 96. Yeah. So I would say I go for close to 100 ounces a day. 8 ounces per 15 minutes. Wow, Willow, that is very precise. Okay. Nancy, 96 ounces. Okay. Yes, we're on the same page, Nancy. See you. I see you in your hydration majesty. Okay, fantastic. So yeah, this is sorry, I have a weird camera tech thing, so I'm just gonna keep doing that whenever it does the weird psychedelic vision is what somebody said. It's actually just psychedelic vision. So when that happens, you know, we'll just roll with it. Yeah, so first offering of the day here in the laboratory of liquid enlightenment is staying hydrated. Drinking enough water is foundational, right? And that cultures around the globe know that this right here is the original medicine. And so, friends, cheers to you. If you have some water in front of you, I invite us to take a nice sip together. And as you do, taking a breath, and I know water is so such a given to our way of life, especially here in our westernized culture. And so perhaps even taking a moment to really cultivate some gratitude and some awareness of the gift and the miracle that most of us have a faucet right here that we can turn and fill a glass with clean, pure, life-giving water and drink it down and not have to hike it for 10 or 20 or 50 miles and not have to aggressively filter it. What a gift. What a gift. So, cheers, friends. Mm. Good. It's really good. Yeah, so sometimes I'll also put some lemon. I used to religiously put apple cider vinegar and lemon in my morning tonic. And nowadays I usually just go for the apple cider vinegar. I'm not sure why. I think I had a conversation with a friend of mine at one point who said that I have two really dear friends who have told me that doing this every day, especially if it had lemon and apple cider vinegar, not good for the enamel on their teeth. Yeah, I I totally believe that. I've been doing this for a long time. I've never gotten those reports from my dentist, but I also don't do the lemon all the time, so, you know, do you? So, welcome. I just jumped right in to the deep end, and I'm so glad that you're all here for the laboratory, the alchemical laboratory that is Liquid Enlightenment. And I wanted to share just a little bit about why we're here and what we're doing here, and really the deeper why of how this came through for me. And real hat tip and shout out to my sister and friend Kelsey, who was the one who tasked me, really invited me, encouraged me to offer this class because I love making beverages and I have such a ridiculous queue of ingredients that we're going to talk about today, and a really great delicious lineup of things that I love to feed to this body temple of mine. And I've also been in an interesting, I've used different words for it, chrysalis phase, maybe like professional dark night of the soul. I've been in this moment of really wondering, what's the next phase of my service and my work look like? I haven't really been sure, haven't really been very clear. And so this offering came through really out of a place of like, that sounds fun. Let's do that. And there has been so much beautiful synchronicity that has arisen since I decided to do it for fun. So there's that. As I was naming it, I added this subtitle Zen in the art of making blissful beverages. And so, what is Zen? What does that mean? Obviously, this whole title is pretty cheeky, right? Like, I'm not expecting any of us to actually get enlightened through drinking these beverages per se. But I have had a long time affinity with the yin yang symbol, which is on this beautiful pendant that my teacher Carmen Baraka gifted me many years ago. She was really my first spiritual teacher, and really in the last few years, I've started to deepen into what that really means. I've always had this draw toward this symbol of the yin and yang, and of course wasn't until later in my adult years that I understood, that I started to learn about Zen and what the meaning of the yin yang really is, and all of the cultural implications and all of the energetics, sort of the archetypal implications behind it. And so pausing on that, and I want to share that a couple weeks ago, I had a client come for an in-person immersion, which is something that I used to offer a lot. I haven't been offering too much these days, but it's basically a personal retreat where my clients come and hang out with me for a few days, and we work on whatever is relevant for them to work on. And often it's this dance between play and work, right? And there is this book. Okay, so who in the house is into tarot? Give me, I think you all have reaction possibilities, so you can give a little heart, you can type something in. Okay, great. I'm seeing, okay, good. We have some tarot enthusiasts in the house. And if you're not, that's okay. We're not going to dive deep into tarot. But there's this really cool book written by Angelus Arian, who also wrote The Fourfold Way, which is one of my like, ride or die spiritual guidebooks. Love it. Angelus Arian, The Fourfold Way, who also, she was an anthropologist, and she also wrote this tarot handbook, and it's very specifically about the Thoth tarot deck, although there's a lot of meaning in there that you could spread across many decks. But she really dives deep into the Thoth deck, which has um, the Golden Dawn origins, which for tarot enthusiasts, you'll know what I'm talking about. Same origins as like the Rider-Waite deck, really the OG boys club, if you will, who started creating tarot decks. And all that to say that she has this really cool numerology system in the back of the book where she talks about how to find what she calls your lifetime personality card, or your your lifetime personality card, your lifetime personality symbol, your lifetime soul symbol. And you do this by, adding up your birthday. There's a whole kind of equation to it. And it's really cool. And then there's also an annual growth symbol. So you do this and you find there's a kid screaming down the road, so I'm gonna just close the window. You find the card that, according to this numerology system, really encompasses the essence of the work that you're here to do in this lifetime. And then it also, there's another card that speaks about, like, from birthday to birthday, what you're working on. And so I was doing this for my client who was coming. Long story long. Thanks for sticking with me through this. I got this really intuitive nudge that, like, oh, she needs, like, this is I'm just feeling like I need to do this for her. And so I looked up all of her things, and it ended up being like spot on and so profound. Such a beautiful, beautiful client experience. Transformative birthday experience for her, which was really cool. And while I was doing that, I was like, yeah, and what's mine again? Like, I looked this up years ago, and what's my lifetime personality symbol? And so I looked it up, and friends, it was so validating. So here's my lifetime personality symbol, the Chariot, which of course looks different in every, deck that you'll see. But here's the Thoth interpretation of the Chariot. And according to Angelus Arian, the Chariot is really the work of balancing movement and stillness. It is the work of balancing activity and stillness, because of course the Chariot is the vehicle, right? The Chariot is the vehicle that moves us toward change, but the Chariot isn't always moving, right? The Chariot moves with discernment. It moves when there is a purpose, when there is a destination, when there is oomph, right? When there is meaning and purpose fueling it. But when there isn't, the Chariot sits and waits, and the charioteer sits and waits. And in this picture, I love that he or she or they is sitting cross-legged in this meditative posture, holding this essentially big disc or pentacle, which is the suit and the symbol of work and of prosperity. And so even though they are in this vehicle of movement, they aren't actually moving. And the four creatures that are tethered, that are the, what do you call it? When the lovely beasts who are pulling the chariot, they're all chilling. They're sitting there chilling, waiting, right? Or maybe not waiting, because Thich Nhat Hanh says we never need to wait. But all this to say that the footmen, yes, love it, the foot beasts. So what came through for me when I read this, it was so incredibly validating, and it brought me again to the yin yang symbol, this balance of yin and yang, yin being the passive, has often has a negative connotation, but the rest, the pause, the stillness, the silence, the contemplation, the internal quality, the feminine quality, the connection with perhaps earth, perhaps water, right? And then the yang, which is the more masculine, um, aggressive, again, has a negative connotation, but isn't actually negative in its definition, more outward, more external, more active, right? The active principle versus the passive principle, the masculine versus the feminine. And this isn't talking about men and women, right? This isn't really talking about gender at all. It's talking about this quality of being and doing, right? Maybe that's the easiest way to say it. And so this was so incredibly validating for me because it really brought me back to, right, the cornerstone of my life and even of my life's work, which is becoming more and more clear to me, is balancing being with doing. And that is a big pill to swallow, right? It is a lifelong task. It's a lifelong contemplation. It's not even a task, right? It's not something that I'll ever be able to check off like, oh yeah, I've balanced being with doing now, because it's fluid and it changes, it's changeable. So all that feels like perhaps a good introduction to me and my work. Hi, I'm Britta GreenViolet, and I balance action and stillness. I help people and myself balance the yin and the yang qualities in our lives. And I believe that that work is so in dire need today because we are a culture of yang. We are a culture of overt yang, and we aren't very good at balancing stillness and activity. So, how does all of that relate to beverages? Well, I suppose maybe it does and maybe it doesn't. But how we nourish ourselves, of course, feels very yin in the essence. And of course, what we're putting in our body is a great invitation to contemplate the yin and the yang. Because if you are going to make yourself a cup of coffee in the morning, or in the middle of the day, or in the evening, or if you're going to make yourself a London fog, which is one of the things in your recipe book that I'll drop in the chat in just a moment, then, or if you're going to make yourself a mate latte or a matcha latte, right? So here's all of these stimulants. And bless the stimulants. I am not here to hate on the stimulants. I imbibe these things myself, and in moderation. I actually can't really drink straight coffee anymore because my nervous system can't really handle it. I'm a delicate flower these days, as it turns out. But when do we choose that versus choosing an herbal tea versus choosing um, kava, which we're going to talk about today? Um, and do we make those choices from here, or do we let our body inform us? Do we let our nervous system and our gut and our heart inform us how to nourish ourselves? And I feel like that's all the same inquiry of, am I letting this lead the way 100% of the time? Because that is very yang, right? To lead with the mind. That is the swords suit of the tarot, is the power of the mind to liberate us or put us in shackles. And it can do both of those things fabulously and efficiently if we know how to wield that sword, right? So, welcome. I'm going to drop the recipe book in the chat, my friends. And I encourage you to try and open it. First of all, let me know if it opens. And you should have a PDF there. And I'll make a note that I did not send this to you in advance so you could print it out in advance, which would have been great, but I didn't do that. So, if you want to take notes on a Post-it note or on a other piece of paper or on a digital note, please feel free, because we're going to talk about some of these ingredients. We're going to go through the recipes. I'm not going to make every single recipe that's on here because first of all, then I'd need to drink them all. And second of all, yeah, most of them I think are pretty clear in terms of how to make them. But I do want to go over a couple with you so that you, I don't know, get your questions answered, and so that we, focus specifically on a few that are my absolute faves. So somebody let me know in the chat if you're able to get into the recipe book. And I'll be right back. Oh, you don't see. Oh, I see why. Ha. Because I only sent it to hosts and panelists, which is just me. All right, let's try this. There we go. We're in. All right. Thanks, Shireen. Cool. So good. I'm going to share my screen for just a moment as we look at it together, and then I'll pop back out again. All right. So here is the booklet, the guidebook. And at the top, we have the kind of overall big shopping list, which you probably also got in the confirmation email when you registered. And this is not broken down by recipe. This is kind of a huge mishmash of ingredients. So take it or leave it. And where applicable, I put links for the brands or specific ingredients that I love. So we'll just roll through this really quickly. Rose water. This is the brand, the Cortaz brand, which you can buy online. You can often find it at the grocery store. It's actually a pretty common, ingredient, the Lebanese kitchen. So fabulous. I love this stuff. Plain sparkling water. And let me know in the chat if you're a Soda Stream person. Who's into the Soda Stream? Let me know. Soda Stream, come to the front. I love the Soda Stream. We use our Soda Stream all the time. If you're a sparkling water person and you don't have a Soda Stream, I'm going to lovingly encourage you to go on like Facebook Marketplace, or what's that other app where you can find things in your neighborhood. Somebody probably knows what I'm talking about, and feel free to pop it in the chat if you know which app I'm talking about. OfferUp. That's what it is. You can go on Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp rather than buying one new, and I bet you could find like a Soda Stream that somebody bought with good intentions and never uses for like $10. Yeah, yeah, try it again. I love Soda Stream. And yeah, if you love bubble water, it's such a great way to it's a fairly sustainable way to drink bubble water without always having to buy the bottles or the cans and then recycle them. We had a friend over last night who was just telling us that up in the county where she lives in Washington, they've now stopped taking glass in the recycling. So, gosh, it's only a matter of time until we're not going to be able to recycle all the things that we're used to recycling. And some of you already live in places where that's not a thing. So, SodaStream, love it. allows us to indulge in our bubbly water without having to, consume quite as much. Lemon juice, fresh, is great, of course, or bottled, organic when possible. Coconut water, you can do boxed, you can do canned. I really love this brand, the Taste Nirvana brand. I also love the pink stuff, which I can't remember what it's called also, but you know what I'm talking about. Although it comes in plastic bottles, which I don't love. So I like that Taste Nirvana comes in glass and in cans. And also my sister Mavi, who was here, hat tip and shout out to Mavi, who turned me on to powdered coconut water. Okay, hold the phone, y'all, because powdered coconut water, this stuff is so exquisite. It comes, you can buy it from this beautiful brand, Wilderness Poets, and it comes in a bag. I recommend getting the big bag. If you like coconut water, just get the big bag. It'll last you a really long time. And you get to decide how strong you want your coconut water and scoop as much as you want. And the taste is so lovely. It's really pure. There's no sugar, there's no additives. It's just coconut, right? That's all that's in it. It's really, really great. Highly recommend. Kava powder and kava. So kava in general, we're going to talk a little bit about kava. This is the kava tea that I really love. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I'm trying to show you things and I'm probably tiny. This is a yogi tea. You can get this anywhere, and I really love this tea. In fact, we love it so much that we buy it in packs of 6, and we just keep the boxes in our pantry and we go through it. So I get a box of 6. I mean, we probably go through a box a month. We really love it. It's beautiful. Kava is such a beautiful medicine. And then you can also buy, which is definitely pricier, but an instant kava powder. So this brand is a new brand that I bought. I just tried this brand because the brand that we've had before, which is Calm with a K, Calm with Kava, um, yeah, I needed to get it kind of last minute, and I ended up trying a new one, and this stuff's very nice. This is called Singh's Kava, obviously owned by a Sikh or Kundalini person, which funny, so is this. But kava, wow. Who's into kava? Shout out in the chat if you know about the magic of kava. So kava is an incredible nervous system herb. It's a root, and you can buy it. Usually, the way that I've always bought kava until very recently was, kind of the ground up fruit, and then you brew it. You can brew it in different ways. You can make an infusion, but you always have to strain it. So it's more like a tea that you brew. You can do a cold infusion overnight, and then you have to strain it out with like a milk nut bag. But now they sell this instant powdered kava, and it's more expensive because I'm sure it's a more involved process to make it, but it is wonderful. So kava specifically is really good for supporting the nervous system to come back into homeostasis, to come back into a parasympathetic response. So if you are somebody who feels like your nervous system is on edge a lot, you experience a lot of anxiety, um, you're a worrier, right? Like you feel activated a lot of the time. Kava is kind of a miracle food. Yeah, it's absolutely divine. And I've got a couple great recipes for you that we'll go over. But this has been a nice favorite thing to do at night. If we have the powdered stuff, we'll totally do this because it's stronger. And it kind of has this, if you've ever, you can also get kava in a tincture. And if you take the tincture, you'll feel immediately that it kind of has a numbing effect on your throat, and in your mouth, which is sort of oddly delightful in a way. And it's very earthy. It's a very earthy flavor. So I've got some recipes that we'll go over. Ben and I like to just drink it straight. We actually really enjoy the earthiness and the sensation. This kava stress relief is so delicious. It's like really sweet. Um, it must have, yeah, it has some stevia leaf in it, but it doesn't have like a strong stevia flavor because I know a lot of us. I'm actually not. I don't mind stevia, but like Ben can't even tolerate it. If he tastes stevia, he's not into it. Yes, the calm with kava is my fave. I mean, that's what I've been using. And then I just couldn't get it when I was buying things for this class, so I got this one instead to give it a try, and this one's also really nice. So the main thing is if you're gonna buy the instant, you want to make sure that it actually says that it's an instant, because otherwise you'll probably just get the root. And brewing the root is great too. So don't get me wrong, brewing the root is fabulous. It takes a bit more planning, right? And an extra step. So let's see, back to the shopping list, a milky substance of your choosing. I even, it may not be the best for us, but I just love the full fat Oatly. I do. I just love it. So that's what I've got here. Um, Coffee is on this list. If you're a coffee person, calf or decaf. I don't drink coffee all the time, but sometimes I do, and it's decaf when I drink it, and I am a proud decaf drinker. I love it. And, I can really take it or leave it. It's really a treat when I make myself coffee. Matcha powder, which you can get in so many places. This is the one that I have right now. I don't even remember. I think I got this at the grocery outlet. Shout out to the gross out. If anybody's into the grocery outlet, if you have one of those near you, if that's a thing in your state where you live, they usually have an awesome superfoods aisle. And in fact, I always like to check random stores for like superfood aisles. And a couple other fun things that I have here that I might have gotten in like superfood aisles of unsuspecting stores. Reishi chaga mushroom powders. I think I got these at like a Home Goods in like the food aisle. I know, so random, but they're organic. And they were like $7 a piece for these bags, which is quite a steal. Quite a steal. Um, Spirulina powder. I think this is another one. It looks like I probably got it at the grocery outlet or at some random store. Um, World Market is a great place to check for their food aisles for delightful things. Okay, Allison says I love the matcha powder they sell at Costco. It's actually my fave. Okay, good to know. Yeah, it's so much. I mean, I don't this is so much matcha powder. I guess if I drank it every day, I would probably be out already, but I don't. I don't drink it every day. So it tends to last me quite a long time. And I'll also mention while we're talking about these types of things that you buy in bags, that in terms of, pantry, I love to put things in jars. So I've got my matcha here in a jar. I've got some maca root powder in a jar. Maca is a really lovely superfood that is supposedly great for hormone balance, good for libido, good for other things that I forget right now, but I love the matcha or the maca and the matcha. I've got cacao in this one, just pure organic cacao powder. yeah, so I'm really into the jars. Feel like it makes for a tidy pantry. Um, let's see. So the last things I'll mention are some really lovely powders from Anima Mundi. So if you haven't dipped into Anima Mundi, they are a really beautiful company that makes great products. And this is in several ingredients. This one actually isn't in any of the recipes, but I really like this blend. It's called Euphoria, Mood, Joy, and Bliss, Herbs for Love and Creativity. So this is a really great one that I love to have on hand. And then, of course, La Rosa, the rose, which is just star teacher and ally and lover in my life right now. And now and always, I feel like we're starting just we're solidifying our commitment to each other right now. So the rose powder is so lovely. Oh, it smells so good. It's this gorgeous, deep, uh, yeah, kind of deep, earthy, purpley pink. And mine actually, I can see that it has a little green matcha in it from the last time I stuck a spoon in there for the rose matcha latte, which is one of the recipes we're going to make. Okay, and then when it comes to supplies, just a few things that I'll mention before we actually make some things. Um, who is a fan of the milk frother? Where are my frothers at? Let me know. Okay, Sally, I see you. I see some hearts floating up out of the abyss. Yes. Yeah, if you have not had the pleasure of the frother, yes, please pleasure yourself with the frother. It really just takes your beverages up. I mean, it's a big up level. It is a big up level. Yes, so the handheld, which where do I have? Yes. So this is also great. I recommend having both. They're great. This is really good for certain things. It does not do what this does. It just doesn't do what this does, but it does a lot of things that this won't do, right? So they're not, I mean, of course, gosh, I'm so blessed, and this is such a culture of, excess where I can have two different frothers for my beverages, right? But these are the little pleasures that just make me so happy and help me ritualize my morning in a way that makes me feel like a queen, and also makes it so that I don't need to go out and buy fancy drinks that then come in containers that then I'll have to throw in a landfill for like $7. I can make one at home and save that money, even though if you love doing that, right? Again, this is not a shame fest of like you shouldn't go out and get beverages that you love. For me, I love making them at home. Buying a fancy beverage out it's a treat. It's not like a normal regular thing for me. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again one more time. And I want to talk briefly about this second page of the handout, which speaks to an alchemical kitchen invocation. So, this is a silly, soulful class about making delicious beverages. And it's also a class, as we talked about, where we're, working on balancing the yin and the yang, right? And weaving more of the yin, hopefully, into our yang, right? I mean, that's the beauty of the yin yang symbol, is that they actually envelop each other, and there's a little bit of the yin in the yang, the dot, and there's a bit of yang in the yin. So they're always dancing together. And the invitation here with this invocation is, first of all, gratitude. gratitude, which helps us slow down the smallest little bit so that we can feel ourselves in the moment and we can remember ourselves in the moment and not feel, hopefully, as hurried and harried and rushed through our lives, which I know everybody here on this call has a really full, busy life. So I see you. And the invitation here is to really weave a bit more intention and ritual and honoring into these simple, very ordinary moments of our day. And so, this invocation that I wanted to offer really has two parts. And I've written something out here. And, if you love it and you want to memorize it, great. It's pretty short. But in essence, what I have here is two parts. The first part is gratitude. And whenever I give gratitude, where I always start is uh, as above, so below, right? Earth and sky. Great divine mother, great sacred father of the earth, of the sky realms. So, starting with that gratitude. And then the second part is really an invocation of, may this nourishment direct me and guide me today toward the most important things. Right. And that's really it. So you can remake this in your own way, in your own words, as feels good to you. And I'll offer what came through for me here now. So thank you, Divine Mother. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Mother Earth, for the boundless nourishment and unfathomable generosity. Thank you, Mother Earth, for the nourishment, for the generosity. And thank you, Father Sky, for the alchemy of fire and water, of air and earth, of light and shadow, which nurtures all life on this planet. So there's the gratitude piece, the invocation. May this nourishment feed my body and my spirit so that I may be guided toward what is mine to do today. So I'm going to give you a moment to just let that land in whatever way feels good. Maybe taking a moment to close your eyes and feel the earth under you and feel the sky above, feeling those polar forces holding you from above, from below, cradling you, stretching you, expanding you, and holding you. And then this idea that may it be that the nourishment we take into our bodies actually contributes. It's not just fuel, but that it's a contribution that energizes us to do the great work of our lives. All right. So then we get into the book where we have the recipes. So again, I'm not going to go through and make every single one of these, but we'll touch on all of them. So the first one, super simple, a rose lemon spritzer. Rose lemon spritzer. So why not? We can just do this. We're here. It's so simple. So, I have my soda stream. I put it in a glass. You could put ice in it if you want. Some people are ice people, some people are not ice people. And then a little lemon here. Grab a little cutting board. This is so funny. It's just hilarious that I'm trying to do study a cooking class. It's just funny what you find yourself getting up to in the world these days. I'm curious to hear about the ice factor actually in the chat. How do y'all feel about ice in your beverages? This is something that I have very strong opinions on, but I want to know, are you somebody who is like, yes, you'll take the ice when you're at a restaurant, like you like the ice water? Are you an ice person or are you not an ice person? Do you request your water without ice and prefer your, poppy prebiotic soda without ice? Which side of the spectrum? Or are you somewhere in the middle? Because maybe you're not an extremist in either way. All right, Sally says, I love ice very much. The colder the better. Yes, I have friends like you, Sally, who are just really into the ice. And I have friends who are very particular who like love a certain kind, like love the crushed ice. I don't have one of the refrigerators that makes crushed ice, but neither here nor there. Yes. Okay, Willow, no ice. Very good. Michelle, not a big ice person. I do request water without ice. Me too. When I go out to eat, and it took me a long time to figure this out, that I actually have the sovereignty and I can ask for water without ice, because why they put ice in water at restaurants without asking you is beyond my comprehension. Is like even in the winter here in Washington, they put ice in the water. Why? Why do they do that? Yeah, okay. Allison, only when I'm feeling overheated, which is pretty much, yeah, what, 6 months out of the year in Texas? Mavi, no ice. Shayna prefers water with no ice in the mornings. Oh, very good. But in Texas summer, I love an icy cold drink. Yes. Crushed ice. Yes, Sally. Never ice when I'm having a meal. Yes, Allison, thanks for bringing it up. I feel like it's bad for digestion. Well, that's certainly what Ayurveda practitioners say. That the gut is the home of the digestive fire, which is called the Agni. This is the element of fire. And so when we put cold liquids into our body, that it puts out the digestive fire. That's what they say. So again, something to experiment with, perhaps. See what works for you. Okay, so with this very simple spritzer, right? I put soda stream in a glass. I put a little slice of lemon that I squeezed in there, and now here's the magic. Cortaz rose water, which I'm just putting like half a capful. In she goes. I'm gonna grab my little spoon, give it a little stir. Again, if it were hot out right now, I would probably put some ice in there. But you know what? I have my handy dandy weather station right here. It's 62 degrees and cloudy. So I'm gonna have this without ice. Cheers, friends. Oh, it's lovely. Yeah, and shout out, she's not here in this room, in this virtual room right now, but my friend Brina is actually the one who inspired the lemon rose spritzer combo. And she did it a bit differently. I think she had like a lemon, um, some kind of lemon sparkly beverage already, and then she added some rose water to it. So that would also be a way that you could go. But I'm really been enjoying this. And of course, you can adjust. Maybe you want it really lemony. Maybe you want the flavor really strong. So maybe you would add more lemon and more rose so that it's more, just really strong. This is a bit subtle, which is kind of how I like it. There's a lemon seed. Something else you could do is put some sweetener in here. I tend to not sweeten things. Oh, there goes my psychedelic vision. Whoa, hey, psychedelic vision. Okay. Uh, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the just extra sweetener in everything. I'm the kind of person who, if I'm making a dessert, I will like cut the sweetener in half that it calls for in the recipe. Um, so I tend to go lighter on the sweetener myself. But if you wanted to sweeten this beverage, you could do it with, I mean, obviously, like a cold or even room temperature, honey wouldn't probably work very well. Although, if you thought ahead, you could put a little honey in like hot water and then add an ice cube or two and then do everything else. So that would be a way you could use honey. You could do a little maple. I love maple as a sweetener. You could do some stevia drops. Again, if you're into stevia, do some stevia drops. So those are some of the ways that you could sweeten. That's nice. It's really nice. All right, so that is our first recipe. Let's move on to our second recipe, which is one of my all-time favorite beverages. And it's sort of become one of my calling cards. It's called Nirvana Nectar. The Nirvana Nectar. So let's look really briefly at it. Ingredients. This is such a simple recipe. Coconut water, some kind of milk, and I wouldn't recommend a dairy milk, even if you're a dairy milk person. I would recommend making this with, oats or hemp or almond or whatever you like. Then you're going to want some pink Himalayan salt. You could use any kind of salt, but there's something about the frequency of the pink Himalayan salt, the crystal, right? The pink crystal. Nutmeg, which you can buy pre-ground, or what we're going to do is this is like the secret sauce, even though it's not a liquid, but you know what they say, the secret sauce is actually freshly ground nutmeg. So we're gonna do that. A little bit of vanilla extract, and then that's the original recipe. Like the Nirvana Nectar OG are those things. And then just last summer, while I was leading this women's rose retreat, I decided that I was going to get crazy and add the rose water. And so this is like the rose petal Nirvana Nectar, the rose Nirvana Nectar. So you can, I would encourage you to make the OG recipe. And then, you can taste it, see how you like it. Maybe you could pour a little of it aside, add a little rose and see how it lands. There might be an occasion for it and an occasion not for it. So depending on how you're enjoying your Nirvana nectar. So usually I would make this in my blender. I'm not going to do that because you all are here with me on Zoom and it would be really loud. Plus our blender is it's very fritzy right now. It kind of doesn't have a slow setting anymore. It just goes from like 0 to 100. But we've had this, what is this, a Vitamix? We've had this Vitamix for a long time. Yeah, 12 years or something, and it's still going strong, right? I mean, the slow setting isn't terribly effective anymore, but still working great. So I would usually use the blender, but today I'm gonna just shake it up in a jar because it's not like a smoothie, really. Like the blender is really an extra step of efficiency, and especially if you're doing, I usually will make I'll make an entire I love making this for groups. I love if I'm leading a retreat or if we're hosting a party or, something where you want something that is, like orgasmically delicious and cold. It's a cold beverage. Then this is a great, it's a great recipe to have in your pocket. And I'm usually making a bigger quantity. So that's also another reason why I make it in the blender. But for today, we're gonna make it in a jar. Okay, so really simple. I'm gonna pop open this can of Taste Nirvana coconut water, and I'm gonna do half and half oat milk and coconut water. So what am I? We have 4 cups in a quart jar. So I'm gonna fill this to the 2 cup. Oh, and this has pulp in it. Oh, that's just this is adding an extra layer of fun. You know what else I love, y'all? Like my guilty pleasure is boba tea, a matcha boba tea. Oh, I love it so much. And it's a guilty pleasure because, first of all, there is some kind of sugary thing in it that is just full on like sugary thing. And second of all, even though they make paper straws, and I don't know why every single person and every single establishment isn't just selling and using paper straws. Mostly they give you one of those big ass plastic straws, and that's really like the sugar I know will just move through my body, but the plastic straw. So really what would be good for me to do would be to just buy myself a bunch of the big, because boba has like the big straws, and it would be great for me to purchase like a box of those, of the paper ones, and then just leave them in my car. So that maybe like once every, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, once a quarter boba treat, like I'll have my own straw that I can compost. Who else is into boba? I want to know. Yeah, okay. Shireen says you can buy bamboo straws to reuse for boba. That's okay. Bamboo straws. I like that. Okay, even better. Yes, there's also wide steel straws. Shireen, seriously up leveling me here. Thank you. Fabulous. All right, so back to Nirvana nectar. We have our half. I brought that up because now there's these floaty pulp things in here, which I'm into. I like the pulp, but I wouldn't usually it should be pulp free for your Nirvana nectar. Okay, pulp free. And then hopefully the lid's on this. I'm going to give the oat milk a little shake. It says to shake it very well. So I'm going to shake it very well. Like a Polaroid picture, as Andre 3000 says, even though my fellow Polaroid photographers here will know that that actually just moves the chemicals around and doesn't help, actually really doesn't help develop a Polaroid picture. But hey, what we do for art, it's okay. Doesn't have to make sense, Andre. We loved it. We all loved it. We all danced our ass off to it. Okay. So then we have the other, so that's the base, that's all the liquid. That's all the liquid, except the vanilla, which I forgot to get out of my pantry. Okay. So you'll notice on this recipe book that I don't think anywhere in here I have given you any of these. um Yeah, sometimes I'll actually follow recipes, but oftentimes I don't follow recipes and I kind of just wing it. And this is really the approach that I like, for better or worse. So what I've said with these ingredients like this is like a splash of vanilla. So depending on how much quantity you have, you can kind of just feel into it. So I'm gonna For this much, I'm going to do like, yeah, half, maybe half a cupful. I'm getting a little intuitive hit that that's not quite enough. I'm going to add a little bit more. So it's maybe like three, I don't know, a little bit more than a half. And then I have my pink Himalayan salt and my adorable little salt spoon. And I'm just going to do like one, no, I'm going to do 2 scoops. So as you can see, this is all super intuitive and really, right, this we're being mad scientists. We're being alchemists here. So we're in the laboratory of our kitchens and we get to just discover, what works and what doesn't, right? Trial and error. So this is what you're going to need to be able to make the real magic of the freshly ground nutmeg. This is a microplaner. And if you don't have one of these, highly recommend that you get one for your kitchen. This is also what I meant to say earlier, also with the spritzer, is that you could do a little garnish on the top of this with a little lemon zest. So this is this zester or microplane grater. This is a great tool to have in your kitchen. And this, I love freshly ground nutmeg. So this, they come in their pods. They're sweet little pods, and they don't smell terribly strong just on their own. But when you grate them, ho ho, ho ho. All right, so I'm gonna do a little grating, and you know what this reminds me of, friends? It reminds me of when my mom used to make, what is it? What's that? Gosh, my brain isn't like very well today. Um, the milk eggnog. Eggnog, that's what it reminds me of. So I know you can't really see how much I put in there, but I zested off that much of the pod. So very imprecise here. But oh, it just smells wow. Freshly ground eggnog. Whoo! I mean, freshly ground, not eggnog. Nutmeg. It's one of my favorite spices. It is one of my favorite smells, I think. All right, so I'm going to put a lid on nice and tight. Now I'm going to shake. All right, I'm going to look at your, okay, Willow's into taro boba. Is that the purple kind? I always want to try it, but I'm always scared of trying it. And what's funny is that I love the matcha boba so much. That's usually what I get. But next time, Willow, I'm going to get the taro and think of you. Do you make your own boba? I think it's tapioca. It is tapioca. I've never made my own boba. I should, well, I've bought a kit and I've made my own boba at home, which was pretty good. It was actually really fun and satisfying to make. I would be really curious about making my own boba. And thank you, Shayna, for that up level. I am going to look into it. I'm going to make myself a note. Homemade boba, question mark? All right, so I'm giving this a little shake. So as you can see, yeah, it's not really necessary to have a blender, but if you're making a bigger quantity, then yeah, blender is a good way to go. All right, so now I'm gonna get out what cup? This is something else I was gonna talk about. So many good options here. We have this really sweet little set that a family friend made for us for our wedding. But then I also have these adorable little owl mugs that my friend Patra made that she gifted to us as a housewarming gift. And there's 4 of them and they nest together. They're so cute. Okay, I'm gonna go with the owl mug. Just look how cute that is, the little tail, the little star. All right. So I'm gonna pour it in. I wish that I could pour you all a cup right now, but I'm gonna go ahead and try it. And to your good health, my friends. Oh, yeah, it's good. It's really good. Now, I typically like to serve Nirvana nectar nice and cold. I don't like to put it over ice because then the ice would melt and it would dilute it. So it's a good thing to store in the fridge until you're ready to actually serve it. So it's a great thing to make in advance. And just know that like the way I'll usually do it is I'll make a big Vitamix full, and then I'll either put it in a big glass pitcher or I'll put it in a couple of quart-sized mason jars. And then before you serve it, you'll probably see that the nut milk and the coconut water will slightly separate again. So you just put a lid on and give it a little shake, or you can put a spoon in there and give it a little stir. And that's the Nirvana nectar. And then you could add, if you're adding your rose water, you could add the rose water and enjoy the rose petal Nirvana nectar version. Something else I wanted to mention that I think I talk about, so some of you may not know that I'm already a published author and that this was my first book back in those days. And it's called Eat Here Now. You can totally find it on Amazon.com. Um, and one of the things I talk about, this is actually a really sweet little book. If you're looking for, it's all about mindful eating. And one of the things I talk about in here is the importance of having utensils and cups and kitchen things that you really love, that you really love. I used to be a potter. There I have dabbled in many different art mediums, and for yeah, a good solid year to year and a half in college at university, I was in the pottery studio a lot. And one of the things that I learned that I loved was they would talk about when you're making a mug or a cup, and the intimacy of, right, the intimacy of bringing a vessel to your lips, and the fact that when we hold cups and especially mugs that have warm beverages, it's soothing and it's comforting to us. And so you want something that feels really good in your hands. You want something that feels really good against your lips. You want something that has a really pleasing shape. And so that's simply a little plug to really love that, like, get things that you love. Get utensils and plates and things that you're going to put food on and then nourish your body. Choose those things with intention, right? Knowing that they carry everything is energy and everything carries a frequency. And so if we're putting something that we're going to nourish, like fuel for our body, for our life, let's use vessels, let's use vehicles that we absolutely love, that have a beautiful frequency. So we had our friend Drea over last night for dinner, and they were commenting on our silverware. And so I was telling the story of how when Ben and I got back from our honeymoon, this was back in early 2019, we went to Scotland for our honeymoon in January. Who does that? Who goes to Scotland in January for their honeymoon? Ben and I did. So we we were back and we were at this laundromat doing our laundry from our honeymoon in Santa Barbara, and there was this antique shop next door. And so while we were drying things, we went next door and poked around, and we found this amazing old made in Siam, right? Like old school Thai bronze and ebony wood utensil set. And we loved it so much. They have these little Thai Buddhas on them. And so we bought these, and they're kind of a pain in the ass because you can't put them in the dishwasher. They have wood on them, so you can't put them in the dishwasher. So we have to hand wash them, but they're so worth it and we love them. And they also came with like these fabulous serving pieces, like serving utensils, right? So cool. And every time I open this drawer to get out some silverware, I fall in love with them all over again. So this is what I wish for us, that when we open our cupboards and our cabinets, we swoon over like the cups that we get to hold. This is a really awesome mug that this beautiful friend in my life, Magali, gifted to us. So great. And look at this cool design. There's a little indent for your finger. There's no handle, which I will say for a mug is not very practical because if I fill it with boiling tea, I can't actually hold it right away. But I do love this little this little finger mark for where you hold it. And it's just so beautiful. Also can't put in the dishwasher because it has this like metal yeah, gold on it. We actually have a lot of stuff in these cupboards with gold that we have to hand wash, which, just hashtag worth it. All right. So moving on in our recipe book. um, Here's another cold. I suppose how I organize this, now I'm remembering, is I started with all of the cool beverages came first. So our spritzer, our Nirvana nectar. Then we have this cocoa kava delight. And I'm not going to make this one, but it is great. This recipe I got from my sister and friend Katerina. And I believe she got it from somebody else. And it's so simple. Also uses again the powdered kava. So this is a great recipe. You could enjoy it. I probably wouldn't, for the most part, I probably wouldn't myself drink kava in the morning because it's so calming for the nervous system. I usually drink kava before bed. You could totally drink it during the day. And also, your body and your nervous system. So if you need calming during the day, kava would be a great thing to do any time of day. And if you are at all familiar with kava, there's a whole culture of kava bars around the world. So people do drink kava all day. Just know that it's certainly not a stimulant and it is a relaxant. And so, yeah, might not be the thing to drink like first thing in the morning when you get up, unless you're having like an anxiety attack or you're feeling very stressed. And then it might be the perfect thing to have when you get up in the morning or anytime during your day. So this recipe, really simple. Coconut water, it's basically mostly coconut water. And then you add a little bit of the powdered kava. So again, I would just follow the directions for how much. This is one thing where I typically do follow the directions, although actually I made this for Ben and I last night, and it says on the back of this, add 2 tablespoons of kava to 500 milliliters of water, which I'm not even sure. I have a little thing over here, a little conversion chart, milliliters. 500 milliliters is okay. It's a cup. Wow. What? No, 2 cups. Okay, so it's like a pint. So it's basically they're saying 2 tablespoons to a pint. I disagree. I found that 1 tablespoon was plenty for like a mug of hot kava. So you can experiment, but it's basically just coconut water. You add some kava and then you add some powdered cinnamon, which is so lovely. And then again, I have always done this, and I actually would recommend doing this either in your blender, or if you're not going to do it in your blender, then you could do it in a glass and use your wand frother. So this would be a great use of the wand frother um, to blend your kava. And actually, this is what I use in the evenings when I'm blending the kava just into pure hot water. I will use the wand frother. So that is a great use for the wand frother. And that's it. And it makes this lovely, foamy, delicious beverage. You could add a little ice if you like it with ice. And yeah, it's delightfully calming. Again, bigger doses may make you feel so relaxed that you feel like you want to take a nap. So you can just feel into it. Okay, so now we're getting into our warm beverages. And we're not gonna make this, although dang, who loves a London fog? Who's a fan? I love London fog so much, which is essentially Earl Grey tea. All right, I see some hearts. So I love a London fog because first of all, I just love Earl Grey tea. I've always loved the flavor of it. Um, this is a great beverage that I'll make sometimes if I want something caffeinated. So Earl Grey typically does have caffeine. You can buy decaf Earl Grey. Um, and as a side note, I really like this company because Tazo, it's organic and the bags are all paper, which you can recycle or put in your compost if you have a compost that can take that. Like I'm always on the lookout for tea that comes in paper. Um, just tea that comes in plastic just annoys me. So I like this company for this. And of course, you can also I also have some loose Earl Grey, which smells absolutely exquisite. So you can also make loose Earl Grey. And so the basic premise of a London fog, in essence, it's a vanilla Earl Grey latte. And so the way that I will usually do it, I'll brew my Earl Grey tea. I'll add I'll usually take the tea bag out, although sometimes I just leave it in there. And then I'll add a little bit of my vanilla extract into the tea itself. I'll usually sweeten it with some honey. And then this is enter the milk frother. I will also put my either oat milk in here, or sometimes I'll get crazy with some organic grass-fed half and half. I'll put a little bit of that in here. And then here's the secret, friends. This has been the big up level to my milk frothing. Not only is this, as if this wasn't like an up level enough, you can add a little bit of vanilla into the milk and then froth it. Yeah, so good. And as a side note, with any of your morning beverages, you could do that. You can add in vanilla, you can add in a little rose, which we'll talk about with the rose latte, rose in your coffee, rose frothed milk in your coffee. Yes, 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 loves. And the other thing I was going to mention, oh, you can put even a little, like a scoop of cacao right in your milk frother, and it will froth up your milk into this lovely cacao. And you could actually just, sometimes when I want cacao, that's the way I'll make it. Like just add um, my oat milk. I'll put a big scoop of cacao in here. I'll let that froth. Maybe I'll boil some water and put a little bit of extra cacao in with the water, and then I'll add milk and voila. Yeah, and then you pour it in, and that's the London fog. It's really simple. And if you want to do the rose petal London fog, then you can either combine. Yeah, I think the way to do it would be to use both vanilla and rose, but you could also substitute the rose for the vanilla. So you can play around. They would certainly be lovely together. Okay, so then our next recipes, I'm going to share again real quick and then I'll bounce back over here. We've got a collection here of 3 rose latte recipes. So the first one is using coffee, and you can use decaf, you can use caffeinated, and you're probably getting the gist of this, right? It's pretty basic. With all 3 of these, it's fairly similar. One of them is with coffee. Then we have our matcha rose latte, which is what we're going to make together. And then we have our dandy rose latte. And they're all very similar in structure. And in essence, what you're doing when you're making these is you are going to choose your base, right? So whether you're making coffee or if you are not familiar, Dandy Blend is a really fantastic, it's a coffee alternative. It's not a coffee substitute. Let's get real. There's no substitute for coffee, right? My coffee drinkers, am I right? Like there's no sub for, you can't sub coffee, right? There is coffee, which is a medicine. Ben just, he is a, yeah, coffee king. He just loves his coffee. There's no substituting the coffee. So it's an alternative. It has a similar depth to it. It has a similar color to it. It's like a dark, really not savory, but almost like that umami flavor, right? The Dandy Blend is really lovely. It's an instant powder. So you mix it with your hot water and bada boom, it's ready. It's ready to go. You want to experiment with how much, because dandelion, if you've eaten dandelion greens before, dandelion is great for the liver. This also has chicory root in it. So this is a really beautiful dandy blend. It's actually a health tonic. It's really lovely. And you'll want to, maybe start slower, not slower, but just experiment with how much powder, because if you put too much powder, it can be a bit bitter, just like the dandelion greens. Oh, Caitlin is drinking dandelion leaf tea right now. Okay. Okay, Shayna can vouch for what, the bitterness in the dandy blend or the coffee having no substitute. Yeah, I love that, Caitlin. Dandelion leaf. I love dandelion. Yeah, coffee, no substitute. Okay. So, rose latte. There are 3 variations. You can do coffee, you can do dandy blend, or you can do matcha, which is what we're going to do together. And in essence, you want to brew the base liquid, and then in the base liquid is where you're going to add your lovely Enema Mundi rose powder. And let's see, the directions are half of a teaspoon. So it's pretty concentrated. Again, I don't measure. I usually just use my little spoon, and then I usually use like maybe that much. Oh, God, it smells so good. So you'll add the rose powder into the liquid, and that could, it may stir up just fine. You may want your wand frother to dissolve any chunks that are in there. And then sweetener of your choice, right? Maple, honey, stevia, I don't know, sugar, monk fruit sugar, whatever your medicine is for sweetness. Even, I'll make a side note that Wilderness Poets coconut water powder makes an amazing sweetener. And then you also get the hydration of the coconut water and the electrolytes, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and then you'll froth your milk with your rose water. right? So you're doing the rose powder in the liquid, and then you're adding the rose water in your froth, and then you're topping the froth on your liquid, and there's your latte. So you can do that in any of those variations. And let's make, I'm going to choose this mug. This was a gift from one of my clients a couple years ago. Take good care of yourself, it says. And I like it because it's a really nice little shape. It's a nice little mug. It's not too big. And I love the color. It's kind of this dusty rose, desert dusty rose, following the theme. All right, so I'm going to get my matcha powder. I pre-boiled some water, just like, hey, they do on real cooking shows. Ah, it's so funny. So funny. Okay. This is also a really sweet little thing to have in your kitchen. This little, I think they call this a milk warmer. It's just a tiny little pot. But I'll tell you that this is such a cool thing. It's a great size for making a drink. It's also a great size for like reheating soup. Like it's just a great quantity for like one person, like a nice size quantity for one person. So I heated this up a while ago, which it's actually not warm anymore, which is unfortunate. I'm actually going to heat it up again. And I can do that because even though you can't see me over here, I have an induction stove. So I'm going to bring you with me because otherwise it's going to boil over and then I'm going to be so irritated at myself. So this is my induction stove. Does anyone else have an induction? Curious. We just got this relatively recently. We moved into this house about a year and a half ago. And the stove was like the only big thing that we, just felt like needed to be replaced pretty quickly. And so we got the induction and we're really happy with it. Okay. So that's heated enough. Okay. So I've got my warm milk, and then how I usually do it is add the water right in the warmer into this little pot as well. And then I kind of mix the whole thing in here. It's getting a little crazy on the camera. So I've got my little milk warmer, and I'm gonna do, and by the way, I know what I usually do. I do this in the blender. So this is kind of an experiment to see if it's gonna work. So I'm gonna add my rose powder. So pretty. I'm gonna add again, I don't measure this, probably maybe should, but I'm gonna do that's probably maybe not quite a tablespoon. I'm gonna add that in. And then something that I discovered with this, because all my artists here will know that what do green and pink make? They make brown. And I want my matcha rose latte to be nice and green. So it occurred to me at some point, look at how gorgeous this color is. It's like mermaid powder, to add a little spirulina to it because I had it and because it's some extra beautiful, rich minerals, and that it would help make the whole thing a nice, gorgeous green. So now I'm going to use this frother, which again, I would normally do this in the Vitamix, which would be a lot faster. And you could make a bigger quantity if you had more people enjoying it. And then you could put in, your sweetener if you're sweetening. sweetening with something. Oh yeah, it's making a nice little, it's making a nice little froth. I'm gonna add just a little bit of honey to mine. Stir it in. It's looking gorgeous. Oh, really sort of do feel like a, oh, here comes psychedelic vision. Watch out. All right. So now I'm going to pour this in my mug. Hopefully it doesn't spill everywhere. Yeah. Okay, so you can see that it's kind of a nice sweet color. And then here's really what I love most about the matcha rose latte is that I've got this bag of dried organic food grade. I mean, they're all food grade, really, rose petals, but they should be organic for sure. And then I do this, I do a little sprinkle top, and I really love what happens. I mean, first of all, just love how beautiful it is. But I also really love what happens when the rose gets slightly moist and then it goes in my mouth. It becomes these little yummy rose treats. And voila, there you have the matcha rose latte. Cheers, my loves. Oh, that is so good. That is so good. Mm. Oh my God, so good. This is, I think this might have been the beverage that I was making when I was talking to Kelsey, and she was like, you need to do a class. So, highly recommend that you get the Anima Mundi rose powder, that you get some rose petals, and that you give this one a try. All right, so that's the matcha latte. And we're getting close to the end of our list here. So, real quick, I'm going to touch on the last two recipes. There is one, the one next in the, oh, those little rose petals are just so yummy. Mm. I've called it the cacao calmer. And Ben and I really love the cacao, which is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's cacao powder blended into hot water with some kava powder blended into hot water. That's it. We usually just have it again with no milk, no sweetener. You could totally add a milky something and a sweet something. But it's pretty simple, and we really, the cacao powder, kava powder together, so good. Just really, 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 really yummy. And you could also do the kava stress relief, and you could brew your tea and then remove the bag and add a little of the cacao powder. You could do that as well, but it doesn't nearly have the punch that the kava powder does. And then the final recipe here is what I decided to call bedtime bliss, also with kava. And again, you can use powdered or you can use the yogi version. And then the kind of secret of this recipe is a spoonful of blackstrap molasses, which I didn't grab out of the pantry, but that's fine. So blackstrap molasses, you can Google it and you will find many articles and people praising blackstrap molasses as like an amazing superfood, full of iron, really good for elimination, good for digestion, so many nutrients in it. It's very intense on its own. Well, I actually have a friend who has become my traditional Chinese medicine doctor. And we've been working on a multitude of things. But at one point, we were talking about elimination, and he was like, "Oh, have you tried, molasses?" And I was like, "No, I have not tried that, but I'll give it a try." Um, and I did. And at first, I started taking it by the spoonful. And that's so intense by the spoonful. Just is really intense by the spoonful. So I just couldn't, I almost couldn't even stomach it. Um, so then I reached out. I think I saw somebody that I know post about it on Instagram. And so I reached out, or I commented and was like, how do you get it down? Um, and so she gave me the idea of like blending it into a beverage. And so it occurred to me that, um, yeah, Caitlin, that's exactly right. Right. If you're familiar with grandmother tea, whew, yeah, I just couldn't. It was too much. And if you're not familiar with grandmother tea, then we won't go into it here because it's not a topic for Zoom. But suffice to say that it is a very medicinal, intense, thick thing in your mouth, and it's just a lot. But the way that it totally works is to blend it with the kava, because the kava is so beautifully strong and pungent and earthy on its own. And then once you add the molasses and then a little bit of oat milk, all of a sudden it turns into this like, yeah, blissful, really yummy, like super tasty beverage that you can drink before bed. The kava will help calm you. The blackstrap molasses will do all of the magical things for your gut and for your blood and for everything else. And it will help you get a good night rest and hopefully just move things in a beautiful way the next day and nourish your body. Okay, so we made it through the recipes. Those are the recipes, my loves. I'm gonna take another sip of this. Just so good. So I'd love to hear, out of what we covered today, what's one ingredient that you don't yet have, but that you're like, okay, ordering that immediately or going to get it? And what's one recipe that you want to try ASAP? One ingredient, one recipe. And while you're typing that in, I'll mention that on the final page of this little recipe book is a little outro from me. You've all met me now. And there are some links if you would like to take a next step with me, if you would like to make magic and explore my work and what that might look like for you. There's some options here. There is a limited time special to book a single session with me. There's a link there, should you choose to accept it. There's also a link, which I'll talk a little bit about, to explore and perhaps let yourself consider joining my brand new group mentorship program, which is called Rose and Sword. And it is coming at the end of July, and there is an early interest list. So if you click on that link where it says join my new group mentorship, you'll get the early interest list and you can put in your email and your name, and then you'll be the first to hear all about what Rose and Sword is, and even get a little bonus should you choose to sign up just by being on that early interest list. And if you're not really sure what you want to do with me next, feel free to go to my website and peruse, or you can book a 1 hour call with me and we can sit down and explore together. And before we conclude, I'd love to tell you just a little bit more about this Rose and Sword offering. So as you can see, Rose has become this incredible ally for me. And what was really amazing was that, again, I had told you all that I booked this class and decided to do it just for fun. And then it wasn't until after I had already set it up on Zoom and gotten it all ready and decided that it was going to be this thing and that I was going to share, especially, how I weave rose into all these things. And then this new offering started to come through. So, in short, Rose and Sword is also about the yin and the yang. The rose is the yin, the sword is the yang, the rose is the being, the sword is the doing. And Rose and Sword is going to be a 14-week group mentorship journey where you're mentoring with me, you're journeying with a group of people, and really you are apprenticing with Rose and with Sword. And you're apprenticing with those two symbols, archetypal energies. And I keep thinking of this offering as ancient mysticism meets plant medicine meets strategic life design. And the way that it's coming through is so delightful and delicious and inspiring for me because it really weaves in some juicy, like mystery school shit. Okay. Like the way of the rose is deep. We are going to go the whole first half of the journey is apprenticing with Rose. So, imbibing it internally, using it topically, studying it as a plant, learning from the way that it grows, learning from the lessons that the actual plant offers, as well as looking at the archetypal, symbolic meanings and learnings that have come across so many cultures across the globe. Alchemy for centuries has seen rose as this deep alchemical symbol, a symbol of wisdom, a symbol of beauty. The petal and the thorn offers us this incredible paradox of what it is to be yin and yang, right? What it is to be gentle and loving and beautiful and also fierce and protective, right? So all of that, there's going to be a piece around the rosary, dipping in to the mysticism, the ancient mysticism far beyond Catholicism, of the rosary, of the japa mala, and weaving, stringing your own strand of prayer beads. We're going to be doing this together as a group. I'm so excited. And then that all takes place in the summer. There is sort of this beautiful crescendo of a personal day-long silent retreat. And so this whole first part is really inspired by this ancient practice that I have gotten to dip into, which is called the dieta. And this is part of the South American plant medicine tradition where you study with a plant very deeply. And so without any, when I say plant medicine in the terms of Rose and Sword, it's not about psychedelics. We're not gonna that's not involved. It's studying with Rose in a deep, deep way with the intention of learning that quality of not only paradox, to hold the paradox of ferocity and love, ferocity and softness at the same time, but deepening into the quality of beingness, into the quality of beauty and yin. And that all happens during summer, capped off with this personal day-long silent retreat. And then we move into autumn. And with autumn comes the sword. And the sword is the teacher of the power of the mind, how we become wise decision makers, how we orient our strategy and our decisions in our life from wise discernment, from our intuition, orienting from the nourishment of the earth, from the nourishment of all of those yin teachings, and then making decisions from there, right? So alignment, then action is like the cornerstone of Rose and Sword. Alignment, then action. And the reason why I'm so fired up about this is because it's become so much more clear to me, as I spoke earlier, that we so often we jump in the chariot and we like floor it, right? And we just start moving before we even know where we're going, before we know what our purpose is, before we know if we're in alignment with our own integrity, with our own authenticity. And guess what happens then? Things go off the rails. I know for me, part of this is really looking at decisions that I've made that later didn't go so well for me, and being able to backtrack what was happening at the choice point, right? Was I choosing from a place of intuition, of deep knowing, of trust? Or was I choosing from a place of fear, of FOMO, of people pleasing, of perfectionism, of trying to prove myself? Because those decisions usually don't go very well, right? So this is where the strategic life design comes in, that we set our foundation with Rose, and then we use Sword to make powerful, potent, aligned decisions for how we are moving, how we are doing, how we are living our lives. And so, Sword, that whole second half will be filled with planning. We'll be talking about the power of the mind, working with some really beautiful embodiment techniques for embodying the sword, for working with decision making, and then actual tangible planning of what's happening over the next year, over the next 5 years. What's your vision? Are you orienting from that place of your integrity, of your authenticity, and your intuition? Rose and Sword, my friends. I am so excited to bring this forth. I actually don't think I've ever been so excited about anything that's come through me in my life. So if you want to be part of it, I would absolutely, absolutely invite you to go hop on that early interest list, because you'll be the first to know when all the details come out, which will be in the next week. And I will even offer a little bonus to the people on that list who end up enrolling for the mentorship. So I hope that you'll dip your toe in. I hope that you will actually wade in. Maybe you will even just dive in headlong because you hear the call. So again, it's mentoring with me, and really we are all apprenticing together with Rose and Sword. Like, I'm with you, by your side. We're doing it together. And I am so excited. All right. I'm going to look real quick at your comments. I'm seeing rose petals and Nirvana nectar. Very good, Mavi. Good choices. Matcha rose latte. Yes, Shayna. Yes, order the rose powder ASAP, 100%. And yeah, if you get on Anima Mundi's mailing list, they often will have seasonal specials and sales and such things. So you can definitely find find the rose out there. But it's a fantastic ingredient. Caitlin, hopefully you saw the recipe book. I dropped it in again in the chat. I think we're at the end, my loves. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you so much for imbibing the medicine with me. And I wish you a luscious, nourished day. Blessings from the rose, from my kitchen, from all of these nourishments. May, as John O'Donohue says, may the nourishment of the earth be yours. So long, dear ones. Have a beautiful day.